What's up, guys? Specstar here with a team I just drafted for the ODL League, and you guys are going to be seeing real soon. I'm going to recap my draft and explain what I took and why I took it. And we're going to start here with Genesect. Now, first I should explain that this league is a bit different. It's loosely based on GBA tiers, but in addition to the 11 Pokemon you take in the GBA tier, there's a 12th Pokemon, an S tier, and that's where Genesect comes in. Now, when I had my pick and it was second overall, I could not pass on Genesect because in my mind that's just a Pokemon that should never be allowed. Here I'm going to look at it. It's got the ability Download, which is of course a huge deal. Raising the attack or special attack means basically I can be Scarfed and Banded or Specs, or almost as if I'm double Specs or double Band if I get the right one. Genesect is really interesting in that it's almost equally proficient as a special and physical attacker. It's got the 372 in each attack. It's got a speed that goes up to 326, which isn't bad considering how powerful it is. It's generally you're going to find it being a mixed attacker no matter what, unless it's some sort of setup set, because it's real strength of it to be able to hit from both sides. It can run Scarf, it can run its drives, Banded, Specs. The sky's the limit for this Pokemon, and I thought it would be just a ton of fun to use. If you look at its moves, a lot of people don't know just how versatile this Pokemon can be, how much options it has. You see it's got the Energy Ball, Blaze Kick, Extreme Speed, Flame Charge, got Gunk Shot, Hone Claws, Magic Code or Screens if I wanted them, which I probably will not ever be using. It's got Shift Gear, which is very relevant, a very strong movement. If you're already getting the attack boost from Download and you Shift Gear, then you got +2 speed and +2 attack, and you are looking like a threat. It's got the Techno Blast at 120 power. U-turn, of course, is very significant. It's got Fell Stinger, which I want to use at some point in this season. I want to catch something with a Fell Stinger and then just throw off some powerful extreme speeds. For those of you who don't know, Fell Stinger, you get a KO and then it increases your attack 3 by +3. And it gets Gravity, which is somewhat interesting, but I don't really have the ground type to abuse that. And yeah, that's basically it for the moves it has that are very interesting. Really a lot more options than I think a lot of people give it credit for, and I'm just really looking forward to putting this thing in use. This is my S tier. Now the second Pokemon I took is Nihilego, and that's an interesting pick for the second round because it's not usually where you grab something like that. Usually you want to get your Mega and stash up on a few of the highest tier mons. But as you see here, this is not a typo. Nihilego was a tier 3 Pokemon, and I just had to snatch it because I think Nihilego is one of the better tier 2s, and I just couldn't ignore it being there in tier 3. I thought that was such a bargain. I just had to go for it. Of course, Nihilego has great special coverage and head smash. I'll find a time in this season where I can use that. I'm again head smash something. I gotta do it for the viewers. Doing it for you guys. I'm gonna find the time to use that. Gets moves like Foul Play, Acid Spray, Clear Smog, Knock Off. And of course, it gets hazards, which is a big deal. I get both my rocks and T-spikes with this thing. For a T3 or even a tier 2, it's just such a solid mon. Of course, it's got, well, you see Mirror Coat here, and of course, it's got that insane special defense. It can make use well of an Assault Vest and just be impossible to bend over with a special attack. It's got that beast boost, which is a huge deal. You can make it so that you can beast boost your speed and run specs, or you can run Scarf and beast boost your special attack and just clean in the late games. It's really just a great Pokemon for the tier it was in and the tier it even usually is in. So I couldn't pass up on this thing. The next mon we're going to look at is Mew, which is my next tier 1 pick. And before I go into this, I want to say some for my teammate in MSBL. Mew's the best. Man's going through a hard time, but he's a strong guy, and I know he's going to come out stronger after going through this. To me, Mew is the second best Pokemon in Draft League when they're unbanned, so I have it right behind Kyurem Black. Now, to me, people talk about Mew and how versatile it is in Draft League because it can be offensive and it can be defensive. But to me, what Mew is in Draft League is it's a versatile wall. It's so much better defensively than it is offensively. There just really aren't any walls that can do what Mew can. It can wall things, especially can wall things physically. It's got moves like Calm Mind and Wisp and Knock Off, Defog, Stealth Rocks. It can just really do it all. Oh, and I should mention that in this league you can baton pass stats, but not speed and not more than one. So I can run stuff like baton pass, nasty plot. I could run barrier or amnesia if I wanted to, get the sword stance going. Really, it can be my wall, it can pass. You know, it could be so dangerous if I pass some special attack to Neolego and I had it scarfed and got some beast boost racking up. Really, this works real well with the team. I could give some speed to something like Buzzwole, pass some special attack or attack to Genesect. Really, it works real well with the team. Also, it takes the psychic moves, which Neolego is weak to, and basically it's not a resist to fire or ground, but you're not going to see it really get knocked out by a fire or ground move because of how bulky it is. So yeah, in third round I just couldn't pass up on third round Mew. It really shouldn't fall that late ever. I think Mew's always a top 5 pick. You see it gets a Aurora Veil. I want to find a time to make this work. I know someone drafted a Alolan Ninetales. Sometime I want to click this just for the memes of it. If I bring it against him and he doesn't bring a Alolan Ninetales, I'm going to be furious. So there's that. And with our next pick, we grabbed a tier 2 Mon, Buzzwole. Now, I'm really big on Buzzwole, and that was strengthened by the strong season it had in Cell. If you didn't see any of that, I encourage you to check it out. It had a few big games. It got 8 KOs and no deaths. I really like Buzzwole. And as I mentioned in my recap video for Cell, Buzzwole is one of the few Pokemon that can put on the offensive pressure it can, but can also switch in on things and take attacks. That in the League format cannot be taken for granted. It's a really good Pokemon. It has phenomenal defensive bulk and it so much power in its attack with the coverage it has. Really good mon. You can scarf it, you can throw a band on it, you can get it roosting up. I'm not really sure how something that top heavy roosts, but it does. Of course, on a banded set, its bulk becomes even more daunting because it gets moves like Leech Life and Drain Punch, which bring it right back up. It's really an annoying Pokemon to deal with. Also, it's interesting to note that here on these 6 Mons, you can see that there are quite a few 4x weaknesses. You can only run 1 hidden power, so people are going to have to make decisions, and I think having these 4x ground weaknesses here are going to make things easier for Buzzwole. Having Buzzwole's ×4 flying weaknesses is going to make things easier for Genesect. Having Genesect 4 times fire weakness is going to make things easier for these two. Really, what I like to do is if I'm gonna have a Pokemon with a times 4 weakness I'm building around, then I like to make it so that when it rains, it pours. So people have to make tough decisions. It's not that easy to prep for them. That's just something that I like to do. Now here we got the Alolan Muck, also known as the Trick House. This is in case any of my opponents think they can bring Trick Room. Can't do it with the Trick House. Alolan Muck is good because with Mew, Buzzwole, and Neolego, it's nice for me to be able to trap ghost types and psychic types. Basically, that's what it is. It's my great pursuit trapper. Of course, it can do things like curse up and then run a Figgy Berry, Gluttony, and then you can put Recycle on it, and it's got semi-reliable recovery. You can throw Clear Smog on it for setup sweepers. You can throw off a Focus Punch or an Explosion, some heat moves that I hope to be able to work out. Memento is an interesting move if I want to set up with something, maybe give Mew a chance to get a baton pass off. I just thought it really meshed well with the team, so in the 5th round, I thought it would be a smart move for me to grab it. Now the next mod I took is Heatran, and that is something I wanted to pair with Genesect. I want to make people think twice about clicking the fire move to make Genesect even better. It gives me more rocks, and it's a good Scarfer. I was really considering putting a Z move on this, but I decided to go with something else that you'll see later as my tier 1 Z user. And this thing is a Pokemon that I've used a lot in League format, and I've had a lot of success using. It's something I know I can make good use of, something I'm very comfortable with, and sometimes comfort with a Pokemon can be an underrated factor in Draft League. Heatran is a lot more versatile than people give it credit for. I've run it with Solar Beam and Sunny Day, Power Herb, Solar Beam. Of course, you got Z moves, Assault Vest, Scarf, Specs, Scarf Eruption, Specs Eruption. Really, there's a lot of things this thing can do. So the next thing we're going to do is move on to our final 3 picks. And in round 7, we finally grab our Mega. And to allow ourselves to take another tier 1 Pokemon, I went with a tier 2 Mega. It's also nice for me to be able to reunite Slowbro and Buzzwole, as you guys saw, as the MVPs of the team and Cell. Slowbro is a really good tier 2 Mega, I think. It, to me, is far and away better than the others and doesn't really belong in that category. I think it's probably a below average tier 1, but not a tier 2. So I had to go and grab it. As you guys saw, if you watch my Cell battles, I got the Trick Room off of this thing. I ran Foul Play on it. Calm Mind, especially defensive, physically defensive. Really, it was a strong player on our team. Wound up getting 10 KOs in the 6 games. For a Pokemon as defensive as it is, of course, is phenomenal. So the next thing I went for is I got Virizion in tier 4, and that went and gave me a good grass type and also help with my speed tiers. I'm just going to double check. I think prior to it, yeah, Neolego was my fastest, so Virizion adds 11 speed to that. Just makes my team more difficult to speed creep, allows people to put less bulk, also gives me a good grass type, something that can be both a banded set, specially defensive, assault vest, something like that. It really is a Pokemon that I like as a tier 4. I've had it before. I believe it got 11 KOs in that season for me as a tier 4. It's something I think gets overlooked quite a bit, but I think it's really good for where it is. It's generally in those low tiers, I look for things that fill a specific niche, but Virizion one of the few exceptions. To me, it really a T3 worthy Pokemon, but Tier 4 is where it'll always be, I guess. The next Pokemon I took was Tornadus Therian, and that's going to be my last Tier 1. And this is going to be a nice flying type to go with Heatran. I wanted a flying type that I can make work in all my matchups, basically, to make sure that Heatran was being optimized and that someone can just run something with Earthquake and a flying move to hit both Heatran and Buzzwole. Tornti is really an interesting Pokemon, having phenomenal coverage and Regenerator. And as you see, I went with it as my Z user over Heatran, and the reason I did that, I think Heatran is a better Z user, but I think Heatran also does better with items and requires items more than Tornadus does. Tornadus, it's good with an Assault Vest. Sometimes it likes to have a Life Orb or something else powering up its moves, but really you're going to find that Tornadus is really good at utilizing Z moves. There aren't really times where I'm going to have to omit a Z move, well, at least not very often. And it can hit both on the physical side and the special side. It's good in both stats. It helps my speed tiers and gives my team more speed with its 375 speed, which of course, to me it can be a little bit of an overrated thing in team building for league format, but it's definitely not unimportant to have some speed in there and good speed tiers. So the next Pokemon we took is Golbat, and you're going to see my last 3 Pokemon are all tier 5s. And I want to clarify that it's like the GBA in that you have Z points, and me using a tier 1 Z user meant that I had to use a tier 5 Z user, and that's why I took Exeggutor. But we're going to talk about Golbat first. I think Golbat is the best tier 5. It's a defogger and an incredibly bulky wall. Its stats don't look remarkable, but you throw an Eviolite on this thing and it takes hits for days. And it's got haze, defog, a ton of bulk. It's just a real good niche fill for a tier 5. And it's something I've definitely used before and will use again. I really like Golbat. I definitely recommend it to anyone who's not in the same league as me. It's got Nasty Plot, which is interesting. Maybe I'll find a way to use that here. Taunt, of course, is important. Whirlwind, really a good Pokemon for a tier 5. Now for the next one, we went with Mudsdale. And I'm not overly huge on Mudsdale, but I do think it's a good tier 5. I haven't used it before. I've definitely seen it used. I went with it this time because I didn't have a ground type. I didn't have an electric immunity. I thought it would be important for me to grab one. And I think as the bulky electric immunity on our team, we may find this thing having a bigger role than its tier might say. So I thought in the second last round as a tier 5, I couldn't really pass it up. I had to go for it. There's not too much to say. Usually you're going to see this thing running maybe an Assault Vest or a Berry. It's got that stamina in case someone tries to test my stamina. It's got good moves to hit hard like Close Combat, Earthquake. Stealth Rock, of course, is really important. Gets Heavy Slam, Rock Slide, Superpower, all that stuff. I think that's all there is to say about that thing. Next we go on to Exeggutor Lola, and I took this thing because I wanted a tier 5 that can make Z moves work, and of course that's not Golbat, and well, it may be Mudsdale, but probably not You can throw a Dragonium Z on this thing, Trick Room, and just nuke things. Really, this thing, I think, is such a powerful Trick Room user for a tier 5. It's really something you have to be careful about. It gets moves like Flamethrower, Superpower, Knockoff, Iron Head, Draco Meteor. Really, you can just throw off some powerful moves. It gets Sleep Powder. It has so many options for that Z Crystal. So if I get the rooms all tricky, it can take chunks out. And for a tier 5, that's some value there. So that's going to be the team there. You see it. I've got my team built for week 1, although of course I'm not showing it here in case the opponent sees it. I should be having some battles and team builders up for this league in no time flat. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy watching this league, and have yourselves a good night.